As a stagehand cleared the dismantled pieces of Flower Moon's drum set, the last shred of daylight formed a golden curve around the cymbal. It winked at the crowd. Then the red sun slipped into the sea. In the gathering dusk, the platform shimmered like an enamel shell, reverberating with the audience's anticipation. Any minute now, Jesse Reid would go on. Curtis Wilkes stood about 30 feet from the platform with the rest of the press. There was Billboard's Zeke Felton, sharing a joint with a Flower Moon groupie in a beaded caftan. Ted Munns from NME, reading over his notes under the nearest floodlight. Lee Harmon of Cream, trading stories with Time's Jim Faust. The Flower Moon groupie approached Curtis with the joint between her lips, eyeing the pass around his neck. It showed a picture of Curtis's face, which Keith Moon had once compared to a homeless man's Paddington bear, printed above his name and the words Rolling Stone. The groupie offered Curtis the joint. He accepted it. His exhale became a brushstroke inside an impressionist painting. Swirls of smoke rose in the salty air, tanned limbs and youthful faces interweaving like daisy chains across the meadow. He handed the joint back to the girl and watched her skip into a ring of hippies. Someone had a conga. Thrift store nymphs began dancing to an asynchronous rhythm. Curtis had cut his teeth as a correspondent on the festival circuit. Berkeley, Philly, Big Sur, Newport. None of them could touch Baleen Island for atmosphere. The hike up the red clay cliffs, the wildflower meadow, the view of the Atlantic Ocean. There was something magical about having to take a ferry to get to a show. As he watched the girls dance, Curtis felt a wave of premature nostalgia. There was a sense in the industry that folk was on its way out. The Vietnam War had been dragging on so long. The protest songs that had made Dylan and Baez what they were now felt empty and tired. Curtis had come to see what they'd all come to see. Jesse Reid, ushering in a new epic for the dying genre. As if on cue, the dancing girls began to sing Reid's breakout single, their voices tremulous with excitement. My girl's got beads of red and yellow. Her eyes are starry bright. Their feverish giggles recalled Curtis to the time a young Elvis Presley had played his high school in Gladewater, Texas, back in '55. 18-year-old Buddy Holly-obsessed Curtis had watched girls he'd known since kindergarten openly weep, swept away by the fantasy that Elvis might choose them. The full bye-bye Birdie. That was the power of a true rock star. Soft-spoken Jesse Reid's persona couldn't have been more different from Elvis's, but Reid seemed to inspire the same devotion in his fans. He had the cowboy baritone of Chris Christopherson, but Reid sounded effortless, and the lyrical guitar skills of Paul Simon. Plus, he was taller than both, with blue eyes that, according to Curtis's guilty pleasure, Snitch magazine, were the color of medium stonewash Levi's. She makes me feel so sweet and mellow. She makes me feel all right. Sweet and Mellow was a Snickers bar of a song. To hear it was to crave it. Hands down the hit of the summer, it had been holding in Billboard's top 10 for 18 weeks. Curtis had been tracking Reid since he opened for Fair Play at Wembley Stadium the previous year. But this single from Reid's self-titled album had turned him from fringe hero to mainstream sensation overnight. And tonight, Reid would take his place as the heir apparent to folk rock. The crowd broke into applause as a bald man with a gray beard shuffled on stage. Joe Maynard, the festival committee chair. The longer the audience clapped, the more pained Maynard looked. Curtis's news radar bristled. "Yes, hello, my beautiful friends," he said. Maynard quieted the cheering with his hands. "Well, there's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to say it," he said. "I'm afraid Jesse Reid won't be performing tonight." Curtis felt a stab of disappointment as his mental list of feature headlines turned to ash. A visceral shockwave passed through the crowd. One by one, dreamy expressions began to wilt, a field of dandelions turning white with anger, ready to blow. And then they did. Cries of outrage rang the twilight like a bell. The girls who had been singing and dancing a moment before collapsed into sobs. Maynard shrank behind the mic.